All right, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So like I promised yesterday, we're getting caught up on the rest of the Shonen Jump chapters today. So yesterday got caught up with Kaiju number 8 as well as Goku Rakugai, which was finally back from, I believe, 2 months or so hiatus. So really excited to get back into those ones. Also got caught up with Monsters yesterday. So a lot of great stuff came out yesterday. Today we're going to get caught up with the latest chapters of Kane Banashi, as well as the newest chapter of Spy Family. May get around to another read-through video today. I'm going to start planning to do ones for Battle Angel Alita again. But that will really depend because it is, again, steaming hot here. Your boy is sweating inside his own skin, so it really depends on what the heat situation is like. But yeah, like I said, we'll see. But a lot of great content coming your way either way. So if you haven't already, as always, please do consider liking, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. I'm really close to my subscriber goal right now. I think I'm only 4 subscribers away. I'd like to really get to that number in the next couple of days if I could. If not, at least by the end of this month. So if you'd like to help me out to reach that goal, that would be greatly appreciated. Without further ado, I'm looking forward to this. Let us dive into it with Spy Family Mission 86 by Tetsuya Endo, with translation by Casey Lowe, and lettering by Rita Mappa. So pick up where we left off last chapter with Fiona just laying out Wheeler with her furious punch as she sends him just flying smack into a wall, into one of the cement walls. And she's just like slowly, like a little specter, just looming closer to him. And as she's about to go in for another blow, you hear a stop. It's like there's no need to kill him. And no need for you to die trying. As Lloyd gets up, rips off his face mask to get Fiona to stop doing her little berserker shtick. And she's like, Isla. I was like, oh. He's like, you're all right. Oh my God, you see Fiona just like doing little bunny hops as she's trying to head back to Lloyd. And she just falls flat on her face as her bones in her legs just snap. He's like, better than you are at least. We gotta tie him up. And then you see on the next pages they've like blindfolded and like tied up Wheeler. You have, as dangerous as it is to keep Wheeler alive, the intel he possesses must be immense. And once he's safely in prison, he'll make a good bargaining chip. So let's let God damn it. Let's let HQ make that call. I was about to say Haikyuu because volleyball's been on the brain, but no, let's let HQ make that call. And Fiona's like, hard to believe someone of his level managed to take you down, Twilight. And he's just silent for a second as Fiona goes, wait, it's like, when exactly did Twilight come to? It's like, oh no, don't tell me you overheard all that. And she thinks back to when she was telling Wheeler, it's like, you have no one to believe in, no one to gaze at and intently scrutinize. You've given up on the world. Now you're just an empty man meddling in it for no reason greater than your own amusement. And he's like, wow! It's like, no. There's no way he could have. He was unconscious the whole time, completely out. He had to have been. And her face is just going beet red, and she's just like gritting her teeth. He's like, he couldn't have heard that. I have to make sure. If there's any possibility that he did, I'll have to kill him myself. It's like, wait, no. It's like, ah! And Lloyd's like, ah! Nightfall's so furious with me, she's flushing red with rage. It's like, I know what you want to say. It's like, maybe what you said that day was right. Maybe I am losing my edge. And you have a little author notes like, he has no idea. And Fiona's like, yes, Twilight, you've lost your edge. Now you're my little toy knife. It's like, now you're my little toy knife with a retractable blade. And like, sprying. And she's like, the wound on your arm, is that from Wheeler? He didn't have a gun. And he's like, no, Yuri Breyer chased me here and we fought. It's like, did you finish him off? He's like, Yor's condition for marrying me was that it put her brother's mind at ease. If she were to lose him, she'd lose that motivation as well, and Operation Strix would suffer for it. And Fiona goes, the moment he referred to her as just Yor was the moment I knew I was only going to get his official explanation. Nevertheless, his analysis was correct. By framing it as necessary for his mission, he's made it impossible for me to object. That was a dirty move, Twilight. She's like, yeah, makes sense. We're like, the SSS will find us any minute now. I'd like to get moving ASAP, but... And you see the SSS director guy with the scar face coming up, looming up behind him. of course, as the fake out turns out, it's just the other old agents that's with them in disguise, going, "This is a hell of a time for a coffee break. Hurry, get the hell out of here. Topside's crawling with SSS agents." And he's like, "Oh, thank God you're here. Wheeler's pretty heavy. You think you can carry him?" He's like, "Sure." And Lloyd says to Fiona, he's like, "I'll pop that shoulder back in, Nightfall," and he does it with a crack. And you see on the next page, it looks like got her laid over his shoulder, like he's carrying a lamb that he's about to go slaughter, as the old guy's like struggling with Wheeler. And you see a snap, 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 snap as Fiona's just freaking out with an "ah!" She's like, "I'm fine, Twilight. The toes and fibula of my right foot are broken, but I should still be able to walk." And he's like, "Are you out of your mind? They'd catch you in no time." It's like, "Ah!" It's like he's trying to catch me. He's like, "Is he trying?" It's like, Twilight is, oh, she's saying he's carrying me just like a bride. It's like, "Ah!" She's saying the thrill. Like some of the words are like not being cut off by like the character stuff, but I think she's saying just like a bride. Is like, "Oh, the thrill." He's like, "You always try to push yourself way too far." He's like, "Oh, the irony of you saying that." It's like, "You are much too stubborn, and one of these days is going to get you killed." He's like, "Fine, I'll gracefully endure this reward. Just please hurry up and get us out of here." And he's like, "Yeah, trying." He's like, "I'm going to die, literally die, if you don't put me down ASAP. My heart will explode and I'll die for real in Twilight's arms." And you see outside they do a little bit of reconnaissance to make sure there's no agents nearby as they load Wheeler into the back of a van. And yeah, we sure are lucky they stopped short of a full-scale mobilization with checkpoints and such. And he's like, "They refused to get the police involved from the start. Gotta be some reason they couldn't move overtly on this. If our luck holds, we might actually make it all the way back to Berlin." And Lloyd's like, "At any rate, by catching Wheeler, we've succeeded in protecting the West's intelligent assets in the East." And you see Fiona all bandaged up with her arm in a sling, has a little note going, "Hurting now that the adrenaline's worn off." He's like, "Yeah, but we heard from Blue Team that our mole in the SSS comms team got taken out. Even after catching Wheeler, we still can't get a clean win. It was hardly worth the effort." And the old guy's like, "I tell you, I've had enough for today." He's like, "Hey, Twi guy, you're getting a drink with me when we're back." And he's like, "Huh?" He's like, "That's out of the question. I came here under the pretext of a work emergency. If I don't get home soon, it's going to look awfully suspicious." He's like, "Always the family man when you gotta get out of something." It's like, "Being a family man is literally my mission." And he's like, "And especially today of all days." He's like, "Oh, are you and the wife fighting?" And Fiona's like, "What?" It's like, "I don't know if I'd call it a fight exactly." And he thinks back to Yor telling him, he's like, "I'm not satisfied with anything about our life together. Even on your days off, you abandon your family for work. How could you?" And he's like, "Let's just say I'm having trouble reading her feelings." It's like, "So that even happens to the lofty Twilight, huh?" It's like, "Is this my chance to steal the wife?" And then Fiona's thinking, "Is this my chance to steal the wife role in Strix?" It's like, "It sounds like Operation Strix is still in danger. I'll accompany Twilight home to investigate the source of the friction." And it's like, "And then escalated so much that the relationship never recovers." And Lloyd's like, "What's wrong with you? Get to a hospital already." And the old agent's like, "Yeah, he's right. Only way to help a marital squabble is to stay the hell out of it." She's like, "Oh, I'm not planning to help." And you see as Twilight's walking home, you have a note next to Fiona saying, "Was sent home." And he's like, "This must have been a really long day, because it feels like I'm coming home for the first time in ages. So if we hadn't managed to stop Wheeler, I wouldn't be returning here at all. Even just going about this mission on a daily basis is like walking a tightrope. It's like, case in point, now I have to figure out some way to deal with yours incomprehensible grievances." And he's thinking about her, Yor just reprimanding him with, "How dare you work so late? So mad." He's like, "Hi, I'm back." And you see Yor just looking all happy and smiling. He's like, "Welcome home, Lloyd. You must be exhausted after such a hard day's work." And Lloyd's just like shocked by this. He just staggers and falls to his knees. It's like, "What the? All my strength just left me." It's like, "Lloyd, are you okay?" It's like, "You really are losing your edge, Twilight. Stay alert. Who knows what unfathomable hatred seeds behind that smile." It's like, "Oh my, what on earth happened to your face?" He's like, "Oh, my work emergency involved a burly pro wrestler who refused to get his shots. It was a rough day." He's like, "Is Anya okay?" It's like, "She was so tired from having so much fun, she conked out as soon as she got home." And you see Anya in bed being like, "I want to put the fluff on the lines." And Yor's like, "If you're that tired, Lloyd, you should do the same." It's like, "Before I do, Yor, I wanted to talk about this morning. I wasn't able to hear you out, and I'm really sorry for that. I understand that you're upset with me for my many failings. It's like, no, it isn't like that at all. I'm the one who should apologize. You see, I was talking with the girls from work, and so I made up the gripes to appear more normal, and I didn't mean to worry you. Lloyd's just like, what the heck? And he just falls over with a thump. It's like, Lloyd! It's like, I can't move anymore. I don't have enough energy to act. I don't have enough energy to think. It's like, Lloyd, are you okay? Should I call an ambulance? It's like, no, but I do have a request. I'm sorry for inflicting this burden on you, but would you mind if I asked you to shoulder my share of the housework for today and tomorrow? She's like, I'd be happy to. And she starts laughing, and he's like, what? Why are you so happy about this? And he's like, oh, it's just, I think what I really wanted wasn't to have gripes, but to be able to actually take care of you, to have you rely on me a little. I know that you can do pretty much anything by yourself, and when times are hard for you to try to spare me from it, but I don't think you need to be so perfect all the time. So when you actually asked me for help just now, it made me kind of happy. It's like, I get that I'm not the sort of person you could ever rely on, and she just kind of gets all depressed. It's like, thank you so much, Yor. Just hearing you say that makes me feel so much better already. It's like, but the thing is, Yor, I've become painfully aware of my weaknesses, and when I looked into Wheeler's eyes, I remembered. I live in a world in which only the perfect survive, which is why. It's like, Yor, you have to hear this! As Yuri just slams the door open and intrudes into the apartment. And she's like, Yuri? It's like, Yuri, you're hurt. What's happening to everyone today? And he's like, huh? Oh, this? I was preparing a report for work, but I made a ton of mistakes. My supervisor body slammed me. It's like, wait, everyone? And Lloyd's like, what the heck? And then Yuri just kind of squints suspiciously at Lloyd, who's like, oh, I had a bit of an incident with a pro wrestler myself. He's like, I created a dummy patient and a full alibi, so even if he looks into it, I should be fine. And he heads into the kitchen and goes, I'll make us some tea. And Yor's like, oh, Lloyd, you don't have to do that. And you see, as he's reaching for the cups, you see his arm kind of just slightly twitching. And Yuri's like, is his right arm hurt? And he thinks back to when he shot fake Yuri Lloyd in the arm. And he's like, could he be someone close to me? Someone who's been observing me? He's like, no way. And with a tum-tum-tum-tum, he rushes into the kitchen, grabs Lloyd's arm, like rolls the sleeves up. And he sees it's completely unmarked. There's no sign of a wound anywhere. And Yor's like, Yuri, what are you doing? And Lloyd's like, what? It's like, it's like, you should keep your sleeves rolled up around open flames for safety. He's like, oh, how sweet of you. It's like, no, of course it's not him. Looking back on it, Twilight has also turned into Wheeler and a Western cabinet minister. He doesn't need to be close to someone to copy them. He's just that good. It's like, and then she's, as Yor's like pushing Yuri out the door. She's like, anyway, if you are going to be so worried about Lloyd's health, it's time to go. He's tired. He's like, what? Oh, come on, Yor, don't be like that. It's like, although I did run off without filing my report, so I really should get back to work. And as she closes the door, she's like, how would you take a shower and get some rest, okay? And Lloyd's like, you're a lifesaver, Yor. And you see in the shower that he takes off a little fake, so I assume like latex or whatever the hell he uses for his mask. I assume he used the same thing. So he rips it off, opening up the bullet wound, which is still like bleeding and red. He's like, it's a good thing I disguised the wound to be safe. It's like, did you really figure out I was hurt just from watching my arm for a few seconds? I mustn't underestimate him. It's like, no, Twilight, this is exactly what you were just thinking about. The moment a spy allows a seed of doubt to take root, he's as good as dead. It's like, pull yourself together. And you see a chuck and a twitch as he heads out. He's like, huh? What the? I smell something burning. It's like, don't tell me that seed of doubt within Yuri Briar led him back here. It's like, be on your guard, Twilight. And he's like, Yor? And you see a, whoa, I'm so sorry. I just thought I'd iron your shirt for tomorrow, but it caught on fire. He's like, I'll put it out. I'm putting it out. And he's like, yeah, this might just be hopeless. And he falls with a thump. And she's like, Lloyd? Man, alright, so thoughts on this chapter. I gotta admit, I'm a little bit disappointed with how neatly everything was wrapped up. And I'm of two minds of this. Again, where part of me is like, alright, I don't want to prematurely judge this stuff in case Endo-san does, come back to some of this later, tie some of these narratives and things that I've been talking about before, ties them back in at some later points for later arcs, uses them for character development at some further future point. But at the same time, I feel like the fact that so much of this was wrapped up so neatly. It feels like Endo's not gonna really come back to expand or develop any of these potential storylines or character arcs. I've been talking about, I've been suggesting for the last couple of videos. So it's a little bit disappointing in that regard. I guess we'll kind of just go from like the beginning to the end with kind of like my thoughts, like where the criticisms and stuff lie. So like at the beginning, I got really excited because I'm like, all right, this is exactly what I was calling for, exactly what I thought was going to happen. With Lloyd's gonna have to stop Fiona from going completely ape shit on Wheeler. He's gonna try to like just continually pummel him, and he's gonna have to like try to break through her programming and conditioning, and how he's potentially gonna have to use this to kind of like do some introspection, think about his like training programs, everything he kind of put her through, like the limits she's gone to like kind of protect him, all of that stuff. So it's a little bit disappointing that it's a little bit disappointing that we felt like we were going down that road, and then it just had to. As soon as Lloyd was like, "Hey Fiona, stop," she's like, "Oh my God, Lloyd!" She's kind of goes back into her normal like lovey-dovey mode of like, "Oh Lloyd, I love you so much." Like, "Oh, I'm getting all embarrassed. Like, did you hear everything I said?" So it's a little bit disappointing. We didn't really see like more development with regards to that. And again, like little bit mixed feelings. Like, given how the sheer like brutality of the last chapter where Fiona's like literally breaking her limbs, and even in this one you have her like as she's like bunny hopping along, you hear like her bones literally snapping and like her falling over. The fact that it's kind of like underplayed, being like written off as a comedic joke instead of like this woman has underdone like horrific things to herself because she thought Lloyd was hurt, and like it's just kind of being written off as like, oh, no big deal. Like, she just has to go home and rest. She'll be fine. The next day, I feel like was a wasted opportunity. And we'll talk more about like stuff related to that at the end. But like, I think that's like the first major thing I wanted to talk about was like how quickly like Fiona just went back to like, oh, everything's normal, and she's back to her normal self again. So a little bit disappointing with regards to that. Again, with the stuff with where Lloyd's like, you are right, I'm putting my mind at ease, stuff like that. I think that's the one thing is like, all right, this is always going to be like used for some kind of future arc stuff. So I'm not going to be overly critical of it just yet. But I feel like, it being the only thing that's kind of left as a loose end was a little bit disappointing given how everything else was kind of rolled up. But I'll be curious to see how that plays out in future chapters. But yeah, I'm also curious if Fiona is gonna actually like act on something when Lloyd is like going. If Lloyd goes through this in future chapters, if he does do some introspection with regards to the mission, like how far he's gonna go, etc., etc. I wonder if Fiona's gonna bring up some of this to kind of talk some sense into him, being like this is a mission, you have to kind of accept that there's gonna be losses, you can't get too attached, yada yada yada. I wonder if that's gonna come up in a future thing, but we'll see. Apart from that, the comedic stuff with like Fiona freaking out that Lloyd's like taking care of her, doing like the bridal carry stuff was all amusing and entertaining enough. So was her like little thought process where she's like, oh, like I'm gonna wreck the relationship so bad, like let me at him, like a little gremlin. I really loved those moments. But again, so in most other stories, like the miscommunication trope where it's like two characters, because they don't talk to each other, they have a miscommunication, they end up fighting, it causes like drama and stuff, is one of the most overused and annoying ones in most typical stories. Because in those ones it's like, all right, these characters, there's no reason these characters shouldn't have been able to converse openly or have honest conversations with each other. So using it to create artificial drama and conflict in those other stories kind of just turns out to be annoying. But in Spy Family, where the entire premise is built around the idea that these people have secret hidden lives, they're both socially awkward, they don't know what normalcy is. I feel like that's the one where you have to utilize the miscommunication trope the best. So on the one hand, I'm conflicted because it's like, all right, yeah, there's a good kind of like a little bit of progression in the relationship where Yor and Lloyd are able to have like an open conversation with her, admitting like, I'm sorry I made up all that stuff. It was just because, people at work were getting in my head about it. I didn't really mean any of it. I just want you to be able to rely on me more. And Lloyd being like, yeah, hey, that's really great. Can you just take care of this stuff for the next few days for me? I was nice, but I feel like it would have landed better if, again, we had played up or leaned on Lloyd's exhaustion. If you let that arc continue a little bit longer, with Lloyd kind of running himself even more ragged after this, after, having gotten an injury, not letting himself heal properly. If he tried to play up and keep up the facade of, the perfect husband, and he tried to, if he tried to, help downplay Grior's grievances by being, more present at home, stuff like that. If you had a couple of chapters or things where he was running himself ragged from doing that, I feel like that would have been a better way to kind of have Yor then also do her thing of realizing, oh shit, am I responsible for him running himself ragged like this? Was I too hard on him? And then her confessing, Lloyd, I didn't really mean all his grievances stuff. I was just saying it because, this people are saying this is what normal relationships are like. And at that point, if she'd been open and been like, I haven't been in serious relationships for that long before, so I wasn't sure about this, blah, 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 etc., etc. If at that point they had an open heart-to-heart conversation, I feel it would have landed better rather than just having it conveniently all just get wrapped up in this single chapter so quickly like this. And it feels like a lot of this was done just for the sake of having a set number of gags in this chapter. It's like, oh, Lloyd coming home all tired, and he's just like, oh, you're having a normal response, being like, hey, how was your day thing? And have the stupid Lloyd face. It feels like, Endo-san is kind of like, oh, well, I have to fill the quota of having a certain number of gags in this chapter, so I'm just going to insert them in here, tie up everything, and just use that as a foothold for a gag, instead of actual character arc progression instead. So, yeah, I know, it's just a little bit disappointed that everything seems to have been tied up so neatly. Again, same with the Yuri stuff, where it's just like, oh, Lloyd was like, oh, I just, good thing I was the perfect prepared man. Good thing I decided to wrap up the wound just in case. Because again, I feel like it would have lent more credence to Lloyd's whole thing of I've lost my edge, I've lost this. If he had forgotten about the wound, if he was freaking out about Yuri coming in to potentially expose him. And then it turned out Yuri tripped or something, or he knocked himself out because he's also still hasn't recovered fully from his wounds. So if he just knocked himself out, or he also just collapsed from exhaustion, and Lloyd was like, oh shit, that was a close call. He almost found me out. There's so many different potential things you could have done with this. I feel like those just all wasted opportunities in this chapter for the sake of a few gags. So it's a little bit disappointing because I feel like Endo-san could have done more with it. And I don't know why they didn't choose to. I don't know if this was an editor thing, the editor telling them oh, you need more gags, or if it's Endo-san being like, oh, this is a comedy, so I have to play up the comedy aspects of it. I can't have a serious chapter or something like that. But I don't know, I think a lot of my feelings on this will be cemented depending on what the next couple of chapters are like. So I'm going to have to wait and see until then before I have more concrete thoughts. But yeah, I just want to put that all out there. With that said, if you have different thoughts on this chapter, if you agree with anything I said, disagree, please do let me know in the comments below. I'd really like to get some other opinions on this. Like I mentioned today, I will get around to Akane Banashi and a few other videos as well. As always, if you like my content, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really does mean a lot to me. And until next time, this is Ash. I'll talk to you all later.